And you know, during those 1,000 years, the devil, called the dragon at that time, will be in chains. He will be bound and not able to hurt the Christ or his people at that time. Let's read on. The remaining people that are dead, those dead people who had died, those who were other than those beheaded, did not live or were not made alive again for the whole duration of time to the point of the 1,000 years being completed. All through that time, those who were dead remained dead, excluding those who were beheaded, whom the Lord Jesus Christ raises up in their physical bodies. Now, the resurrection of those who were beheaded is called the first resurrection. This is the first of two resurrections referenced at this time in Revelation chapter 20. Because the second resurrection event will take place as recorded in verses 12 and 13. And we'll read that a little later. However, John writes that happy, that those people who are part of this resurrection are happy and holy, they are sanctified, is the person who is part in the resurrection, this first resurrection. And down upon these people who have part in the first resurrection, the second death does not have authority. In other words, they will not be killed a second time. They will not die again. That final death will not happen to them. But contrary to the second death, these people will be priests of God and of Christ. They will serve God by performing priestly service, and they will do it by means of the Christ, who is the chief or high priest, of course. And they will reign as kings in company and association with Christ for those 1,000 years. And I want to note also that during those 1,000 years, the following people will be with Christ, because we need to remember who all will be with him. First of all, we've got the holy people, or the true Christians, who will be gathered together with the Lord Jesus Christ in the air, as we read about in 1 Corinthians 15 and 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. So the holy people, we will be alive with the Lord Jesus Christ, having received our new spiritual bodies by that time. And then also with the Lord Jesus Christ on earth will be the holy people of the Judean or Israeli background, who will remain alive through the wrath period of time. They'll still be in their physical bodies because they won't have been killed during that time. Also, those will be with them will be those who were resurrected during the first resurrection into their natural physical soulish bodies, which they had prior to their death. And of course that includes two witnesses who were made alive again in Revelation chapter 11 and 12. Also kept alive will be the people from the Gentile and other nation background who will remain living during the wrath and will decide to believe regarding the Lord Jesus Christ. And let's move on to page 21 of your handout, where we look at Christ will raise the rest of the dead people and judge them on the earth. So we see that Christ came back on earth. Many of those alive will be with them at that time on the earth. The holy people who comes with them will be with them. Those who had been beheaded and who had witnessed regarding him will be raised in their fleshy or soulish body. They will be with them. And so throughout those 1,000 years, Satan, the devil, will be bound and held. After those 1,000 years, the devil will be released, and there will be a battle. However, let's skip ahead to Revelation chapter 20 and verses 11 to 15, because we want to look at the second resurrection at that time. So let's begin in verse 11. John writes, "And I saw a great white throne and one sitting on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled, and a place was not found for them. Now the one sitting on the throne is referring to God himself. Verse 12, and I saw the dead people, the great and the little dead people, having stood before the throne, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of the life. And the dead people were judged out from the things having been written in the books, according to their works. And the sea gave the dead people in it. And the death and the grave them gave the dead people in them. And they were judged, each person according to their works. And the death and the grave them were thrown into the lake of the fire. This is the death, the second death, the lake of the fire. And if someone was not found, having been written in the book of the life, he was thrown into the lake of the fire, the second death. So John saw a great white throne, large, bright, brilliant, and the one, God, who was sitting down on it, from whose face or whose presence the earth and the heaven fled or took flight from him, and the place, a location, was not found for them. In other words, that's referring to what will occur after verse 15. The end of the present heaven and earth, as we know it today, will occur. Verse 11 communicates the importance of this final judgment on earth, which the Lord Jesus Christ will implement on God's behalf. God himself will not descend to live with mankind until after the new heaven and the new earth will be created in Revelation chapter 21. Well, let's read on here in chapter 20. John said that he perceived dead people, the great and the little, in other words, from little to large, or large to little, all kinds, from low rank to high rank, it doesn't matter what status. All of the dead people, the remaining dead, everybody else was dead, having stood up and standing in the presence of the throne. Now they again are raised up in their fleshy bodies. Why? Because they need to be judged first. And the books were opened. And the books contain information. And another book was opened, which is the book of the life. That life refers to God's realm, God's spirit life. And the dead people were judged. Decisions were made regarding these people who had previously died but were made alive to receive the consequences of their behavior while they were living on earth. They will receive the implementation of final judgment on them. So the dead people were judged from the things written in the books, all of the books, in accordance with their works, what they did while they were alive. And the sea will give up its dead people. Anybody who is in the sea will be given up to be judged, made alive in their physical bodies to receive their final judgment. And the death, that is the end of life, in other words, the cause with its effect on people resulting in death, and the gravedom, that continuing state of death, that was caused from Adam's disobedience. Death and gravedom gave up the dead people from it. Emphatically, the dead people who were in them, and they were judged. Each person, each one. John writes that word each, means each individual, according to their works, will be judged.